Thank you for joining us on the third installment of Chasing Our Trunks, our glorified home movie adventure series that hopefully shares our spirit of adventure with you. This trip would be the fulfillment of a dream for both Taryn and myself, a journey to travel by road through the vast wilderness of Alaska. Everywhere we turned on this trip, we saw spectacular sights and vistas. We saw lakes, mountains, rivers, and if I can channel my inner Jeremy Clarkson, we saw both at the same time. And unlike previous adventures, we'd be bringing two trusty steeds with us. My 2011 Triumph Tiger 800XC, lovingly nicknamed Hobbs, and our trusty 2013 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, appropriately named Ruby. Also joining us would be Taryn's brother Sean and his wife Amanda, and we were grateful for the extra sets of hands on this trip. Work began preparing the vehicles months ago. Cargo management, new tires, a place to carry extra fuel and water for the long stretches, and some much needed maintenance for Hobbs. While it may seem like overkill, where we were going AAA was simply not an option, and we couldn't exactly roll into the nearest Canadian Tire for spare parts. Our destination was Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, a town called Deadhorse. This tiny oil camp on the edge of the Arctic tundra represented the furthest north one can drive in North America. And as always, any excuse will do. Alright, so today is a pretty exciting day. I get to go to Spokane, Washington in 2 days on my motorcycle, and I'm going there for work-related reasons, but it's a great opportunity to sort of test out the bike and the gear and everything else that we have for the season. I'm a little nervous about it. I was in the States in February, and unfortunately I didn't film that trip, even though I did drive and I did camp. I just didn't have time to make a video about it. But I got robbed, and so Taryn and I lost all of our camping equipment, about $5,000 worth of stuff, and we've had to replace some things, but we're not really sure what we're replacing it with and what we've lost versus what we're keeping. So today is the first time out camping again in a long time, so I'm going through all of our gear, making sure I have it ready to go, because this summer we've got a pretty exciting thing planned. We're off to Alaska for a month, so that should be a pretty exciting trip, but we got to make sure we're prepared for that. So let's get packing. And so, the packing began. When traveling by motorcycle, every pound and cubic inch counts, but at the same time, for Alaska, we need to be entirely dependent on what we brought with us. We would need tools and equipment to fix anything that might go wrong, and after packing, repacking, and packing again, it was finally time for me to hit the road. My journey was a huge success. No robberies for one thing, but also some fantastic memories made in a wonderful city with some amazing people. I returned by way of the Icefields Parkway to join Taryn and some dear friends for our annual May-long camping trip at the McLeod River Recreation Area. The next months were spent on final preparations until once again, work-related travel pulled me away. So, Taryn?
Yes?
What are we doing?
I'm organizing a kind of a staging area for Alaska right now and writing down everything that I pack so we know where it is. And
what
we know
day is it?
Today is June 20th and we leave in 10 days.
And so how come you're packing so early?
I'm packing early because my darling husband is going away to a conference.
For how long?
A week.
And when is he back?
The day we leave.
Taryn worked tirelessly over the next week assembling all of our equipment. Our tools, our spare parts, our food, and our water, and of course making sure there was room for the dog and 3 adults in the Jeep as well. Meanwhile, I was working very hard at my conference. Finally, I returned to Edmonton and we headed west, staying our first night about an hour outside the city before continuing through Jasper National Park. The first 2 days were a bit of a blur, but soon the adventure started to take shape as we explored the back roads of BC, looking for perfect campsites. Of course, just when things are going well, things have to start going wrong, or else it probably wouldn't be called an adventure.
Alright, so day 3 on the road, and we've already had a couple problems. So first is my motorcycle. I dropped it. I like to say I dropped it during an epic stretch of off-road riding, but I was just tired when I got into camp last night and I dropped it. I might edit that out, we'll see how I feel. Anyway, so it bent over my bark buster here, which as you can see is right there, and now the brake, it's in the way of the brake, it's interfering. So, right there. So I'll need to fix that. And then the other thing is our Jeep headlight, one of the headlights is busted. So thankfully we brought a spare one of those. So I'm gonna bust out the toolkit and see what I can do about fixing some of this stuff.
Thanks to having all the tools we needed, we soon had the problems fixed and even added an element of decoration to Ruby's window. One final stop in Prince George for some supplies, and the next hurdle reared its head: my rapidly wearing rear tire on Hobbs.
Good morning. I'm hoping you can help me out. I need a motorcycle trial tire. Do you guys happen to have anything like that kick around? Hello, is this Sam? Hey, my name's Craig. A fella actually been at the gas station here in another town, knew something. All right, great, thank you. This might be a bicycle store.
We struck out, but we hoped to pick up another tire later on, and so we decided to push on to the next destination.
So we were just talking to these guys. They rode down here, and there was a local Alaskan as well, and we were talking about going all the way to Prudhoe Bay, and he said, well, they told you guys you can't camp up there. And I was like, yeah, of course. And actually I had no idea what he was talking about because I just didn't want to sound like an idiot. But it turns out there's polar bears, and so you can't camp near Prudhoe Bay because of the polar bears.
We were skeptical about the bears, but polar bears or not, we had a destination in mind and a long way to go to get there. But thanks to that same Alaskan, we decided to make a pit stop in Stewart, BC for lunch. It was a beautiful little town nestled in BC's coastal mountains, but the real attraction to this place was it would be our first landfall in Alaska. The town of Hyder, a tiny hamlet of about 100 people, is a town with a rather unique tradition: getting Hyderized at the Glacier Inn.
So we're at the Glacier Inn, we just got Hyderized. They didn't allow filming inside. Sorry. There we go. But it's official. Yep, it's blurry, but you get the idea. So we've officially been Hyderized, and now we need to spend the next 3 hours walking around Hyder because that was very strong.
To get Hyderized, one must consume about 2 ounces of 180 proof liquor. If you can't keep it down, you buy the bar round. If you can, you get nothing other than a small card and some bragging rights. That night, we camped in the shadow of the Salmon Glacier and enjoyed being in the middle of nowhere. The next morning, we woke up early and said see you later to Hyder and Stewart, BC. We had a long way to go, and we decided to hit the road towards the Yukon, stopping only briefly to take in some of the wildlife along the road.
So it's about 7:30 in the morning and somewhere in the Yukon, we're not really sure where. Got into camp last night, did my usual maintenance routine on Hobbs, and noticed he was extremely low on oil. So I'm a little bit worried about that.
With our oil level low and having used up all the spare oil we brought with us, we were worried about continuing on. Thankfully, Hobbs limped the final few hundred kilometers into Whitehorse, where the local Walmart had all the supplies we needed. Soon we were back on the road again, heading towards Haines, Alaska, with the hopes of seeing more bears and enjoying some of the character of these quiet Alaskan port towns. Our early arrival meant time for other much needed chores and exercises, and we relaxed with a drink as the sun set near our campsite. We traveled back into Canada and headed towards Anchorage, where a particularly persistent black bear seemed to like the looks and smells of our camp. Eventually, Addie's bark scared the bear off, but we didn't exactly hang around the next morning for a leisurely breakfast. As is usual with our trips, we took the time we wanted to check out interesting sights and learn a little bit about the terrain we were traveling through. Of course, it wasn't all a leisure tour, and eventually a combination of poor decisions and an insatiable desire for a bit of fun led to the next hiccup on our trip.
While attempting to cross that river over there, I wanted to get to this campsite, to which it turns out there's a road. That's okay, because we tried to cross the river on the bike, and then I bashed the kickstand switch off a rock, I think. So now Hobbs doesn't want to run when he's in first gear, or in any gear but neutral. So I'm going to tear into that and see if I can fix it. At least I hope I can fix it. And we are still 200 kilometers from Anchorage, so we're probably just going to stay here tonight.
Thankfully, hot wiring the switch proved very easy, with cannibalizing a few bits and pieces from our first aid kit, and with the tools out we finally replaced the Jeep's headlight. Anchorage was a short drive away the next day, and we finally managed to purchase a replacement rear tire for Hobbs. Mounting and balancing was a cinch, and the next day we picked up Sean and Amanda at the Anchorage airport to begin the next part of our journey north. Our first night in camp together was spent catching up, discussing the trip, and talking about all the wonderful things we were about to experience together. Denali Park was the first stop on our journey north, and it was a highlight. Moose and caribou were everywhere, and other wildlife was abundant. Sean then treated us to our final taste of civilization for some time at the 49 State Brewing Company, where we had some delicious burgers and a few good drinks. Soon it was time to begin what we felt was going to be the most challenging chapter of our trip. The first few days had been spent learning our systems and equipment. Now came the serious business of learning what to do when things go wrong. On the Dalton, help is hundreds of miles away, and we'd be our own ambulance and nurses. The team excelled at learning the skills, and we felt reasonably ready to respond to emergencies. After a brief oil change stop in Fairbanks, we spent the next part of the drive in relative silence, hoping that we didn't come upon anyone who would need these skills we just learned, and that one of us wouldn't need them either. Camp the night before the Dalton was quiet. We took the time to do some laundry, recheck our equipment, and on a rainy morning we finally set out. We were finally doing it, tackling what was reputed to be one of the most challenging roads in North America. It didn't take long to realize that despite the stories, the Dalton actually wasn't that bad. Sure, it was slippery and massive trucks bore down on small bikes like millions of tons of bricks, but by and large the riding was easy. We crossed the Arctic Circle, a mecca for fellow adventure travelers, and continued north. As always though, just when things are going well, they tend to go a little sideways.
You guys okay?
Yeah, busted fork seal.
I'm sorry?
Fork seal's leaking all over the place. And so I'm just trying to decide now, is it safe to ride? Well, we'll take it nice and easy and see if we can get into Goldfoot with it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for stopping though, I appreciate
If
it.
I don't see you guys by, say, 45 minutes or so, I'll put a note to watch out for you guys.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it. The real danger here too is getting fork oil on the brakes, because then the front brakes stop working. Am I crazy or are both of them leaking? They're both leaking.
Are they?
Yeah. I don't know anything about suspension, actually. It's the only thing I haven't done on this bike. Up there, when things break, you've got two options. You can quit, or you can fix it. We chose the latter. My complete ignorance about suspension and suspension systems meant that we didn't take the decision to push on lightly. As it turned out, it's completely fine at a reduced speed. Thankfully, a KTM rider we ran into in Coldfoot taught me how to perform a temporary repair on my seals, and even though we didn't have the oil to refill them, we were back on the road. That's the other thing about traveling in remote areas. You simply can't get by on your own all the time. People tend to look out for each other, and it seems all of us were bonded together by the sheer craziness of wanting to drive for fun to a place like Dead Horse, Alaska, where typically people demand vast sums of money just for the inconvenience and misery of working up there. But we continued on, and we finally made it. We made it!
We did it! We're in Prudhoe Bay.
5,600 kilometers later. Oh yeah, it's so cold.
Oh, sorry.
5,600 kilometers later, and we have made it to Prudhoe Bay, Dead Horse. There's literally nothing here, so we're gonna go back south where it's warmer.
It's really cold.
Yeah, I've been freezing my ass off on the motorcycle, and they've been probably pretty comfortable inside the Jeep.
We've been taking pictures. We have the window down a lot.
It's tough life. Dead Horse, Alaska was the goal, and when we had finally completed it, the landscape we were passing seemed to take on a very different meaning. It was no longer a terrifying obstacle to overcome. It became an incredibly beautiful and pristine part of the world that relatively few people ever get to see. Of course, we couldn't stay up there, though I think we would have liked to, and so it was time to work our way back home. But that didn't mean the adventure was over. Okay, we were in Chicken, Alaska, and it was apparently the first people here wanted to call it ptarmigan. They didn't know how to spell it, so they call it chicken. Chicken is exactly what it sounds like, home of 3 buildings, a chicken statue, and a $10 bag of ice. But it's the gateway to the top of the world highway, which runs from Alaska to Dawson City. A few hundred kilometers of high-altitude dirt seems like a cakewalk after the Dalton, and we loved every single mile. We're off to a hotel wherein we're going to do a shot of alcohol with a human toe in it. Yes, you heard that right, a shot of alcohol with a human toe in it. As the story goes, back in the 1920s, a rum runner ended up getting his foot soaked when he stepped off his dog sled. The exposure, exacerbated by the fact that the RCMP were hot on his tail, meant that he got brutal frostbite on his big toe. To prevent gangrene, his companion removed the toe with an axe, and they celebrated and commemorated the moment by preserving it in a jar of rum. Many years later, when cleaning out an old cabin, the jar with the toe was rediscovered by Captain Dick Stevenson. After consulting with his friends, the Sour Toe Cocktail Club was established and now boasts more than 60,000 members who drank it fast or drank it slow, but their lips had to touch the nasty toe. Of course, today's toe isn't the original. The original was swallowed by a tourist some time ago. The current toe actually came from Edmonton. Coincidentally, it was anonymously delivered with nothing but a note: "Don't cut your lawn in flip-flops."
Yeah. Okay, there. You can drink it fast, you can drink it slow, but the lips have got to touch the toe. There you go, Taryn. Oh, just nasty.
Crossing another liquor-related hazing ritual off our list, we celebrated my 30th birthday in a tiny campground outside of Whitehorse before stopping at the famous Signpost Forest, where we found proof that people from my hometown really do go everywhere. Our travels took us south through BC, where we stopped at the Liard River Hot Springs. The warm water was a much-needed soak after hours and hours of rain on the motorcycle, and we enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. After some much-needed rest and a few more stops, we finally made it to Dawson Creek, BC, mile 0 of the Alaskan Highway. We had traveled the entire length of the Alaskan Highway, which was built in the 40s as part of the war effort. It was a nice way to cap off an otherwise excellent adventure. But like all journeys, ours must come to an end, and we re-entered Alberta, heading home. This was by far our most exciting adventure to date. Over several weeks on the road, we made it to a place that will stay with us forever. But as we've said before, it's not the destination, it's the journey. There were some scary moments and some joyous times, but the things we'll remember most is that we did it together. Thank you for taking the time to share this adventure with us, and until next time, we'll keep chasing our trunks.